I want to welcome everybody to California Times. And I'm Guy Meyer, and I am very grateful to be visiting with the general manager of Marin Municipal Water District. It's actually sort of an honor. You've got a big, a lot going on your shoulders these days. Ben Horenstein. Now, Ben, how long have you been the GM at MMWD?
Yeah, a bit over 2 years now.
And previously they hired you away from Sonoma County, is that correct?
Yeah, I was with the city of Santa Rosa, um, yeah, running their water department.
All right.
And prior to that, I was for quite some time at East Bay Municipal Utility District.
Wow. And yeah, California and water, they go together like, I don't know, they have to go together. It's it's been a series of years now, almost in a row, where we're coming up with water shortages. Um, Ben, is this being defined as an emergency right now in Marin County, or is there a category that we're in yet? That tell me how that looks for you.
Yeah, I would say we are in a historic drought. Our board did declare a water shortage emergency last month. And I believe the county of Marin is going to be doing something similar this month.
Marin Marin Municipal Water District, is it a is it, it's part of our local government in its actual form of management or government? How would you describe that in its relationship to the government of
Sure.
the county?
So we're a special district, and California has a large number of special districts. Many are water agencies, many are wastewater agencies. There's fire districts, mosquito districts, and generally they're all independent governance, local government structures, organizations that have by governance an elected board of directors. And that's where we are. We're the oldest municipal water district in California. We were chartered in 1912. Yeah, so we've been around a while.
Yeah, that's great. And you've got a series of reservoirs that up until the 1980s took care of the entire population of Marin County, correct?
Yeah, we were formed through combining a number of smaller private water companies. And we, through, I believe, citizen action and legislature action, had authority to form and take over those private water companies. Right. We've been providing water for a good part of Marin County for well over 100 years.
Now, as part of the governance of the water and having that, bearing that responsibility to our community, the watershed of that serves Marin County is a large open space recreation area as well, correct? Is that, do you have like a separate division that just takes care of this area that feels like a park to most residents of Marin County?
Yeah, what we're entrusted with, it's a good part of Mount Tam, which makes up our watershed. It's over 20,000 acres. So, and it's really a special, pristine place. And right, our community utilizes it and benefits from it in a number of ways, with visitors from hiking to equestrian to biking and running and fishing and right, the whole works. So yeah, we have a significant group that manages that, the visitor aspect, but also the stewardship piece, which is very important to us in our community to preserve and enhance the nature of that special environment that's entrusted to us.
Now, bringing us back right into the reality of 2021 and where we stand with our water. It was about 2 years ago, from what I understand, that things looked great. Is that correct? Right at the end of the
Yeah,
rainy season?
we really historically and typically benefit. The rains come in, we get a mountain effect, you know, and the rains come down on our watershed and our lakes fill up. We don't have a huge supply, a ratio of supply to demand. Many places may have more years of demand in terms of supply on hand. We're on the lighter side. About 75% of our water comes from the local water supply on our watershed in Mount Tam, and about 25% of our water we benefit from a relationship with Sonoma Water, and we get some of the water from the Russian River system.
Now, the numbers in acre feet that I have seen is pretty much in terms of at maximum where where you want it would be nice to be, particularly at the end of a nice full rainy season, is about 80,000 acre feet, just shy of that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And where we are now is at about what number are we at now?
It's about 40,000 acre feet right now.
Yeah.
And we're projecting, you know, we don't, in this area in California and here as well, we don't typically get much rain or precipitation over the summer months. So we're projecting, you know, in the fall, we could always have what we call them, you know, the miracle March, or, you know, but looking at the, you know, history, we won't have much rain. In December, we're projecting somewhere maybe 25,000 acre feet of water.
We are hoping. Did we get that this past season up to December?
No, we're projecting our supply to be, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
okay. Oh, that's the,
25,000 acre feet.
I see.
And, you know, the odds are, and of course, we're hoping for an average year or better where, you know, our lakes will fill up or get close to filling up. But of course, we're planning for, you know, a continuation of the drought because we want to have plans in place, of course, to keep the water flowing.
I see. So that's sort of an important visual figure for residents, myself, anyone looking at the full picture. At the current rate, or with the goals of conservation met, that the projection is in December of 2021 that the water district would still hold 25,000 acre feet of water.
Right. And the more successful we are with conservation efforts, it could be 30,000 or a bit more. And that number approximates our annual demand.
Oh.
So we obviously do need rain coming this winter, and it always rains. The question is it going to be a heavy year or an average year or below average?
Now, this past year, how would that measure? And I'm sure you must have a measure. What type of, did we get 25,000 total over the year, or quite a bit less than that, or what?
Yeah, it was quite a bit less this last year. Just maybe 4,000 or 5,000 acre feet of runoff. Now, this was historically the lowest runoff we've gotten in our entire history. So it really was historic. The likelihood of that happening back to back from a historical standpoint is very, very small, yet we're all seeing changes driven by climate change, and it is very hard, if not really impossible at this point, to predict what that season's going to look like.
And in a 10-year frame, I really haven't seen that visually in newspaper or the media, but hasn't it been, except for about the rainfall of 2 years ago or three, maybe it was 3 seasons ago, hasn't the 10-year period been almost drought or exceptionally dry?
Generally, yes. The nature for us of our storages, with a few big storms back to back,
Right.
we fill up very quickly.
Right.
Unfortunately, it works the other way too. If we don't get the rains, we empty fairly quickly. So we're one of the first in the Bay Area or Northern California. We're one of the first typically that feel the drought in terms of shortage, but we're often one of the first ones that get out of drought as well. So again, it's the vagaries of not just the nature of the season, but do the storms align how we would want them to align? And, do we get the atmospheric rivers that come in? There was a late rainstorm this year that got pushed south. If that had come, and hit us directly, we'd probably be in a different place right now.
Well, back in the 1980s, or I think it was the early 80s, I'm not quite sure what year it was, or if it was 2 years, but they did run the pipeline across the Richmond Bridge to bring hooking up water that I think might have been due to be heading south, or it was part of the bigger overall California system.
Right.
To
So
some
that
degree,
was in the 70s, the late 70s.
late 70s, right. Now this is being looked at again as to what that possibilities are. What are you seeing there at MMWD in terms of your projections or
Well, I'd say the way we're thinking about it generally is calling for conservation. We can talk about that a bit more. We'll be closely monitoring how successful we are with conservation based on how good we're able to do with our conservation efforts, working with our customers and the community, and of course, depending how the wet season coming up plays out, we may have to look at some of these supplemental projects like the pipe on the bridge.
And if, with that in mind, do you have like a kind of a time frame laid out that if so, end of November, move more directly to the pipeline, or is it in the background you'd be starting to do a checklist to get all this stuff put together if it is needed?
Yeah, I think it's at this point the latter, where we're looking at it's a very complex project and very costly. It's not just getting the pipe on the bridge. You need to find the source of water, and then you have to figure out a way to get that water to us across the bridge. So the pipe on the bridge is a very visual indicator, but there's a lot of pieces that have to come together that at this point we're trying to understand the feasibility of it.
You're really laying out the picture for anybody who's in Marin or outside of Marin, of what helps keep Marin County kind of a very unique place. This water that can be so generous, but that generosity within 2 years is suddenly on the other side of the generosity, where like all into tightness. We don't have that much. We're not part of the realm of California that's connected to all these outside sources. And
Right. And like many things, I think that has two sides of the coin,
Mhm.
in that we have this really gorgeous, high quality water, our own watershed. But right at the same time, we don't have the level of flexibility that others may have that are intertied to the state water project and all that. But as we all know, there's many demands on that system, more demands in water even there. So yeah, I think it's just a bit of a different paradigm than others have, but most water agencies would like more resilience in their water supply in California.
and that's you would think that, yes, anybody who is a manager of any water district in California wants more room to breathe than less, wants more, that would be nice. And in fact, California's history that we've been a part of has been one of growth and greater and greater demands on resources like water over the years.
Right.
And this puts all of the water districts and in a degree of I would almost say tension, but maybe that's too great a strong word. Nonetheless, in 76, there was a court decision that Marin Municipal Water District played a part in, and you're probably familiar with that, right? The Swanson versus MMWD.
Right.
That sort of set a precedent, but it hasn't been looked at, and maybe is not needed yet. Does it sit in the background as a back pocket? And maybe you could explain what that was.
Yeah, I'm not up to speed on all the details, but essentially it, as I understand it, it confirmed the authority of a board, such as the board at Marin Municipal, to take action to preserve water in times of shortage, including things like mandatory conservation, moratoriums, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think specifically it really it designated that the existing community had a right to the water supply that was how should we say it was a inherent right that a potential user could not infringe upon. Basically, they denied hookups to new users for a little time of that drought.
Right. It supported the authority of the board to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, in terms of we're looking at in the context of this, and climate change does come up as sort of like this enveloping reality that we seem to be a part of, but we're also in a reality of housing issues that some have called a crisis. And out of Sacramento, there is a desire for cities and towns across California to provide quite much more housing, like as many as a million new units. Now that translates to Marin County. We have headlines in January about being required or asked, the local towns are dealing with this thing of providing 14,000 more units of housing. Now that's quite a huge expansion in 10 years. Did this come across the board yet? Is that been a discussion point, or is it just sort of like some sort of background?
Well, planning efforts and planning decisions are generally made by our local jurisdictions, planning commissions, and the like. And our job is to provide water, not to get into the details, the difficult details of planning decisions and looking at development, and all that occurs within a local jurisdiction. Certainly, I understand and appreciate the nexus with water and potential growth.
Yeah, it would, it has to be on everybody's mind in various levels of our ecological understanding of where we reside as we human beings, and how we sustain ourselves. I think that's the big question.
It's interesting, Guy, because people hear 14,000 units and extrapolate that would be whatever, call it 5% increase in population means 5% increase in water demand. And, if you think about it, much of our demand, for example, is irrigation. Our customers, our double the demand on the system in the summer compared to the winter. So, new development doesn't necessarily exert that sort of demand. If it's multi-residential, if it doesn't have expansive lawns and turf, I'm not advocating for one or the other. It's not my role or my business to get involved in planning. Yet, it is important that it's not a linear increase in the demand on the system necessarily. If it's new development,
seen as a linear impact, you mean to say, or you can extrapolate that it, with proper conservation, it could be handled, but nonetheless, for anybody
I'm not
facing,
saying it wouldn't increase the demand. Of course, anything additional would. Just wouldn't increase it necessarily proportional to the increase in population.
We're running out of time, and I do appreciate this conversation. I think there's lots of facets to it that you could go different directions. Going back to the Sonoma connection with Marin, 25% of our water was the figure I've heard that we receive from Russian River sources. That's correct, right? You're
right,
nodding.
approximately.
Now, what's the status with that? Are we getting this on a continual basis, or is this coming? How does that work?
Yeah, it comes, like many things, there's contracts and terms and details, but yeah, generally throughout the year, we're taking about 25% of our needs through that contractual relationship we have.
And if that was called off, or if their emergency is so strong up, which Sonoma County and Mendocino County districts are officially by the governor in I guess an emergency situation, is there potential that's impact is going to be thrown in there too as a little bit of a monkey wrench, or would that be?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And we do expect that to happen as soon as July, where our allotment from Sonoma County is going to be reduced. We expect that to happen.
Wow. Well, I think in the past we found that Californians did conserve when asked. And I recall headlines and stories of a few years back that when I believe it was when Governor Brown was leading the the charge then to get everybody to conserve water, that in fact Californians did come together and did I think even a better job than what was hoped for. Is that my memory same as yours?
Yeah, I think over the years with droughts, California has been able to conserve. Yeah, and we're hoping that'll play out in a similar fashion this time for sure.
And I want to just throw in a plug for on the climate, that us human beings, we also have some power to conserve how much energy we use. And I think the COVID thing and maybe the drought thing is going to keep kind of nudging us in a stronger direction to be more local and to think deeper. And I had my Smokey the Bear hat over on my side. I was going to put it on here, but it said only you, right? Only you,
Right.
Whether it be fires or drought or whatever.
Right.
Us humans are, we're responsible for this. Our little.
Yeah, and it's been shown around the world that that there's a lot of room to conserve water on our usage compared to many arid places around the world. So, it's going to take a societal effort and a community effort to really change over the long term in a sustainable way some of our practices, certainly energy, but as it relates to water.
Ben, I think we're about out of time. I really appreciate very much this conversation with you. I feel like I'm being connected to, one of the powers behind the scenes here in Marin County. And anyways, I thank you and all the best, and keep up the good work. And we'll have another exciting show shortly. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thank you.
Good.